Hi, so it's Rewilding Day. I thought I'd just share with you our little garden patch. So this is the woodland garden area. And so what I've done over the past few years is to kind of really get to know, basically learn from nature and learn particularly from the nature that's here in this garden. What wants to be here. I've been exploring the local area and getting to know the plants locally. So yeah, at the moment we're looking at the Lesser Celandine, and the Lesser Celandine is all along the river in the sort of wooded edge of the river near where I live, and the same with the ramsons, the wild garlic. We had those as well, and yeah, so the garden's been a bit of an experiment, and as you can see, very, very dense cover. Not as dense as it was. I've just been thinning out some of the green alkanet here, but yeah, it's got lots of plants in soil, and so in lots of senses, I've kind of been letting the sort of nature do her thing. And then learning from that. But this is a garden, and so yeah, if I let it go completely wild, then we wouldn't be able to obviously, use it as a garden, and there might be things here which would be less sort of helpful to our sort of human existence in this space. So especially kids playing and so on. So yeah, one of the things that I've learned is that it would be very readily go to woodland, but also this green alkanet, this with the lovely blue flowers, would completely take over. So I think the soil here is probably not all that fertile now. We've been here about 11 years, and the green alkanet goes down quite deep. Puts down these sort of roots which are quite difficult to get up, and yeah, draws the nutrients up. So it makes a wonderful green manure, just popping the plant in water. It's very stinky, but it makes yeah, great sort of fertilizer for the garden. I've left these ones because the bees showed me, actually there's a card on there now, that these are doing a wonderful job for the bees at the moment, and probably other pollinators too, sort of fairly early in the season, so they're really welcome. There's some dandelions there as well, but yeah, it's a real partnership thing, and just lots of observing, lots of kind of waiting and seeing and watching, and learning how to work with this space, and then just kind of nudging things. So I'm hoping these plants here, I did put some seeds down, and the ramsons and the Lesser Celandine, those were planted as bulbs or tubers, and so yeah, they're really kind of starting to come into their own now after a couple of years, and there's also some English bluebells just starting to, the shoots are just starting to come up. Bit of a tricky one. In the background there you may be able to see Spanish bluebells, which were here when we moved in, and I've struggled with this one as to whether to take them up and replace them with the English bluebells. They quite possibly will hybridise, so they will crossbreed the English and Spanish, and there is a problem that the Spanish ones really take over, and eventually the sort of genetic line of the English bluebell might be lost. Yeah, I found this one a bit tricky. I do find it tricky removing plants, to be honest. I do try and avoid it if I can, but obviously these were bulbs that were planted by somebody. I'm still sitting on the fence on this one. They are lovely, but they're not native, and yeah, they could cause the demise of our lovely English bluebell. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But yeah, apart from that, so it's obviously a mix of plants that have self-seeded here and ones that have been planted, and just trying to create a sort of lovely little woodland garden. I think these are campions, that are just starting to establish. So it'd be interesting to see how that is later on in the season. But yeah, just a few kind of random thoughts for rewilding in a garden. It's not truly rewilding, but it's trying to get the space as something more than lawn, with lots of biodiversity. And so I really try to get that the soil is as packed with as many different species of plants as possible, and lots of that means basically putting some seeds down and things, but really letting nature do her thing. So yeah, it's lots of learning and observing. And the other thing that I would say there, I think I particularly like this approach because our climate's changing very rapidly, the seasons are changing very rapidly, and so it feels more important than ever to be watching what's going on with the species that are here and responding to that. So it's really important kind of connecting with the space beyond the garden and seeing what's happening in that space. So, you know, we're sort of really getting a feel for, you know, how to help and responding, and, you know, being at times quite hands off, kind of really sitting on my hands, and at times just, you know, really connecting and finding, you know, how I can help. Anyway, I'll leave it there.